Welcome to the Pinning Combination Podcast. I'm KJ Pilcher, visiting with Hall of Fame coach Dick Briggs, as we normally do about this time each week. We're coming to you from a balmy southwest Cedar Rapids, where, as you can see in the background, beautiful golfing weather over here. Not, but yeah, I think we're both we both dug out and hunkered down now after that first big snowstorm of the season.
Yeah, we survived what John Haggerty called Snowmageddon.
Yeah. Yeah. We've been pampered all the way up until that point, and then we got a whole season's worth of snow in about 30 hours. So
My parents, they're 96 and 95 and live there on their own house. My mom called and said, take pictures because in our 96 and 95 years, we've never seen it come that much come down at once.
really, wow. Wow, that's saying a lot. Now that I know there's some more to come, but hopefully it doesn't interfere with any of the wrestling action this coming week. And let's kind of start off with things on the college level. Big event up at the Unidome this weekend, Friday and Saturday. The NWCA Multi-Divisional Duals, featuring teams in D2, NCAA Division III, NAIA for men's and women's, NCWA teams, and also the NCAA women, the University of Iowa women win a title there, beating North Central by a point. As well, D3, Wartburg, Augsburg again in the finals. Wartburg coming away with their 13th championship, which leads all divisions in this format. But a lot of exciting action up there in the Unidome over the last over those 2 days.
Right, and I've had a chance to go to that tournament when it's in Indiana and Kentucky a few times, and it's such a cool event to have all of the different levels. Without, of course, D1's not there, but all of the other different levels, and it's just fun to to watch, and especially this year in Iowa because we had a lot of Iowa schools in there, and
Right.
maybe one or two more than normal that might not have been there otherwise. So all of the Eastern Iowa Division III schools, and and some of the junior college or the NAI school. William Penn was there, of course, and Grandview. But so a lot of the players were the same when it got to the finals, but some of the results might have been a little different. So Augsburg and Wartburg have won that every year since I think 1995 or something like that. But the thing that's interesting about that is when they have the Battle of the Bergs, don't count on what happened at the National Duels happening at the Battle of the Bergs, because I've many times seen it turn around, and so and then again, of course, at Nationals. But really, speaking Division III, it appears that that right now there's two schools and everyone else is chasing them. The Bergs, and Dave Malachek's University of Lacrosse team took third and did a nice job there. But it is kind of neat to see. It's just fun. It's a fun event to be at.
Yeah, Wartburg had quite a few individuals step up and perform really well. One of them that I thought kind of stood out for him, Joe Pins, the former Hempstead prep, especially on Saturday. 2 technical falls in the final 2 rounds against Wisconsin Lacrosse in the semis, where Wartburg won 2017. And then he followed that up with a 21-5 technical fall over the kid from Augsburg. Wyatt Zrowski. I'm sure I just butchered his name. But the thing that really stands out about that gives Pins 10 technical falls on the season. But what he did was he set Wartburg's all-time career technical falls record with 35 now. He beat the old record of 44 held by Cross Canone. But when you think about all the talented wrestlers and accomplished wrestlers that have come through Wartburg, to be number one in any career list is quite the feat. But especially in technical falls, that's a neat accomplishment there for Joe Pins.
Right, and I got to watch Cross Canone for much of his career there, and he was a technical fall machine, isn't it? There's kind of a lot of irony in this. Joe Pins is the technical fall leader.
Yep.
But kind of fun there. Yeah, so let's hopefully they can. They're a little behind on their catching up with their they being Wartburg with their record board, because I know a kid that should be on 3 of them and there is not on any of them yet. So
Gotcha.
So hopefully they get that caught up for Joe's sake. Anyway, one thing I wanted to mention also was kind of stepping back a little bit here was lacrosse did go 5-5 in matches with Wartburg in the semifinals. The score is 2017, but so bonus points for the difference there. But again, lacrosse did a nice job and a little bit of vulnerability there with Wartburg. So that might, we'll see what happens at nationals, that sort of thing. But yeah, Co, Cornell, University of Dubuque, Loras, and Luther were all there as well.
Yeah, in Co after dropping a duel to Johnson and Wales in the opening round, one where Johnson and Wales kind of took it to him a little bit. Co battled all the way back and ended up getting 5th, which losing in the first 2 rounds, that's as high as you can come back to get. It's not like a true third bracket, but Co really rebounded after that loss.
Right.
4 straight wins. They beat Cornell 47-3. Of course, we kind of exchanged messages. I think Cornell was had some reserves and stuff the whole for part of the weekend. But still a dominant performance there. Then they beat Wabash by 2. They got a good win on Saturday to open the day, beating Wisconsin Whitewater 26-10. And then they avenged that loss to Johnson and Wales with a 33-10 victory for 5th. So great job by Co, really bouncing back after that opening loss.
Right. And I guess I don't know how it slipped me that Co beat Johnson Wales, who beat them first round. I don't know if Johnson Wales didn't have their varsity out and played the protect game now that they've got to win over their, sort of thing. I don't know what happened there. I have to take a look back there. So, if they did, that just burns me when they do that, especially at a national tournament. But anyway, we're here to wrestle, not to duck and dodge. I think we addressed that on one of my teed off weeks ago. But anyway, here we go. Yep, Co did a nice job. And then on that Co team, Matt Arsenal at 197 and Damari Dancy at 285 both went 5-0 on the weekend. So they had good weekends.
Yeah, they finished I think they both scored bonus points in the final 2 matches against Wabash that put them up 2018 to win it. Arsenal with a major and Darcy with a technical fall there in the final two matches to pull that one out. So
right, and Wabash is a funny team. They've been really good in the past. This year at the national tournament, they wrestled Co very tight, and then on their backside bracket, didn't do so well. gave up some big losses, and so I don't know what's going on there, but they're kind of an up and down team. But they certainly are up for Co. So Co did a nice job, especially those upper weights, to bring home the victory there.
Upper Iowa, they were in the D2 bracket. They had a very tough draw. They had number one Central Oklahoma in the opening round. Peacocks dropped that one, but they bounced back on Friday with two big wins. They beat number 20 Ashland 38-4, and then number 18 Northern State 31-6. The interesting thing, even with the loss to Central Oklahoma, they won 20 of 30 matches on day one. I mean, that's you're not thinking of being in the consolation round when you're winning 20 out of 30 matches on a day, but good job by the Peacocks, kind of taking care of business after that loss to the Broncos.
Right, and Central Oklahoma goes on and wins it, and the seeding was a head scratcher to me. I mean, I just and actually the results kind of support my comment with that. The number 2 and number 4 seeds lost in the first round,
Mm-hmm.
and then the runner up, Augustana, was unseeded or seeded 10th. I don't know if they seeded them all the way out or what they did, but if they didn't seed them, they drew them in, and they were 10th. I mean, they ended up being the runner-up team. So maybe it's just difficult to seed, but it wasn't even close to how the rankings were, and so that's why I'm before the tournament started thinking, wow, I don't understand this. So anyway, like you said, Upper Iowa had, who's ranked 9th, had that tough draw, but then went 2 and 3. They lost them Nebraska Kearney and McKendree, was it, I think? And anyway,
Yeah, which is interesting because they face McKendree in their next duel. So,
oh, okay,
yeah. So, just kind of an interesting matchup there. Yeah, given the fact that that's who they ended up. The Peacocks have earned top 8 finishes in 14 of the last 16 years. So that tells you Coach Heath Grimm has Upper Iowa, competing year in and year out, which, we already knew, but,
right.
A little stat that just kind of backs that up.
Yeah, it's been fun to watch them through the years. And like I said, when I'm at that in the building or in the house for the NWCA duels, I always watch the D3 because they're at one time, and then the D2 comes in a little bit later. I was usually able to jump over and watch Upper Iowa compete as well. So and the same thing happened this year. So that's kind of nice that you can do that.
Yep. James Davis at 133, Chase Lensman, the former Monticello prep and NCAA champ. They both went unbeaten for the Peacocks. I don't know if you saw the picture. I think it was Lensman with the big giant black eye on social media. You know, really showing the warrior mentality there. The way he battled and got a nice little shiner to show for it.
So wrestlers look at that as a medal. It's a badge of honor.
Right?
So so good for him.
Yep. One other looking at the NAIA brackets, Life with men's and women's sweep of the NAIA brackets. Life men, they snapped, what was it, Grandview's 13 dual or 13 straight championships or 11 straight championships, 12 right around in there. But Life coming away, Life had lost to Grandview in the finals the last 4 years. This time finally knocking them off for the title. And of course, we saw the Life women wrestle in Iowa City at the Soldier Salute and saw how well they did. No surprise that they also come away with a team dual title as well. But surprised with Life getting the best of the Grandview men.
Right. It was a 24-17 duel, and I was a little surprised, but Life knocked them off. Was it last year in the national tournament, and kind of snapped their run there as well. So for Life to do it, I'm not surprised. For it to actually happen, I was a little surprised.
Sure, sure. And speaking of women's competition, this is the first year the University of Iowa is having a competitive season. You know, I think it's the first two rounds, no real surprise, but the big test was Saturday when they faced King and North Central. At least that's kind of what you were expecting. Got both of those, and boy, the final was very competitive. Um, Iowa wins 21-20. Of course, the freestyle scoring, you get a point if you score a point in your match that's not ended by a fall, a pin. Apparently, Marilyn Deedy got a pin that was huge for Iowa. She's the transfer from Augsburg. Um, and then one of their other wrestlers received a point for passivity, which gave them one extra point despite losing the match. And that ended up being the difference 21-20 over North Central, um, the reigning uh, women's tournament champs. But last year, I believe King was the dual champ. So uh, good good showing there by the Iowa women.
Right. And this is not a knock on the Iowa women. Congratulations to them. It's a bit of a knock on freestyle. And you spoke with it with the passivity call. So in the last match, they get the other the Iowa wrestler gets a point that lost 6-1, and the point was on passivity. So passivity in officiating in freestyle is if there's no point scored with it like a minute into the match, someone's getting put on the clock, and it's going to be a passivity call or a takedown, depending on if they can get it in that 30 seconds. Generally, it ends in a passivity call. So I don't know. I haven't watched the match. I don't know if it was. So basically, it's the referees, the referee, the match chairman, and match judge that have collaborated and said, okay, we're putting you on the clock because we have to. And it was a little disappointing to see that the duel went down to the referee's call to give them a passivity call. It wasn't a scored point; it was a passivity. You definitely earn passivities, but that's a little bit, of a beef with me on sorry about the phone on the freestyle side of it. North Central won 6 of the 10 matches, and I think that was one, maybe 2 of them that they didn't score. North Central didn't score a point and didn't get their on their losses. Didn't get a point on that. So good for Iowa. But I don't know. It's freestyle is just everyone wants to go freestyle, and I'm not one of them. I like freestyle. That's where it should be in the Olympics. But let us have our folk style, folks.
I don't know if you saw the picture. I can't remember who exactly posted it, whether it was a media member or if it was maybe even Katie Joe from Wartburg. But the Iowa North Central mat, there was this huge crowd around it. People on the floor that were kind of huddled around the mat to watch it. Something that I don't know if I've seen during a women's duel or even a co-ed competition like that, to where the focus of the majority of the people were huddled around that mat. It looked pretty cool and seemed pretty significant.
Yeah, I mean, the intensity's there, the excitement's there. without question. And you know, it's just different scoring. It is how it is. And but you know, it's interesting. The two, by the way, the two wrestlers, Iowa wrestlers that didn't allow a match point, which prevented North Central from not scoring a point, there were Sterling Diaz and Marilyn Deedy, pretty solid wrestlers there.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And Sterling Diaz was named Iowa's Women's Athlete of the Month, I believe.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So I believe her and Real Woods both won that distinction for December. So
that's any sport.
yeah, from
Wow.
what I understand.
That I mean, for her to win that with the
Caitlin
legend
Clark.
with Caitlin Clark in there, that's a pretty big honor. Wow, good for her.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Any other takes from the NWCA duels? I haven't seen or really looked for anything, but I just kind of wonder if coming back to the Unidome is in the cards for 2025.
Boy, I sure hope so. That's neat having it there. I guess two comments. I don't know if you mentioned the William Penn men's team went 2-2 on it, and then backing up to the championship match in Division 3, Kyler Romero from Wartburg beat the number 3 ranked and returning All-American, I believe, Sam Stoll, which was actually the turning point in that match or in that duel, and that because of that, Kyler Romero was honored as the conference athlete of the week. So that was a nice honor for him.
Awesome.
And now the 97 M. Dean for Wartburg wrestled the 3 and 4 ranked guys in the nation and handled them.
Wow.
Big scores. So anyway.
So good performances all around there. Let's take a look at some Big 12 action this last week. Iowa was idle. They don't wrestle till Friday at Nebraska. But Iowa State, you and I took a little bit of a road trip. Iowa State went way out west to face Arizona State and Cal Baptist over the weekend. You and I went to Nebraska, faced Wyoming for its conference opener, and then Nebraska nearly got a victory or a sweep there. But let's talk about Iowa State. Iowa State goes out to wrestles Arizona State, gets a big win, wins from Cody Chittum over Ja'Cory Teamer. That was huge. At 157, Teamer ranked number 4 in the country. And then Younger Bastida, again, another notable win for him. He beat Colton Schultz. You know, he's the big heavyweight, ranked number 5. Bastida got an earlier win or earlier takedown, and that was the difference to win 4-3. Schultz, accomplished Greco wrestler internationally, was a national finalist in Detroit a couple of years ago. So that's a huge wins for Chittum and Bastida.
Right, Chittum won 9-5 over Teamer, and so that one not a close score. Schultz had been out, I think, this season. This was his first time on the mat, guessing with an injury or whatever. Not to take anything away from Bastida, because Bastida's proven that he's the guy at heavyweight. I mean, because we didn't know at the beginning of the season. We were kind of wondering if he could handle the jump up, and it's obvious that he can. He's had a couple of top 10 and maybe even top 5 wins now. Did he wrestle Air Force Hendrickson? See, someone else he beat that.
I don't think he wrestled. He placed in front of Hendrickson, but I don't think he wrestled him. He wrestled Davison from Michigan.
Right.
Davison, who was at Northwestern, transferred to Michigan.
Right. So nice wins, and so no doubt here he can do big things at nationals for sure. So two nice wins there. And the dual score was 28-10. They kind of romped on ASU. They're who's ranked
Exactly.
21st. And then Cal Baptist 39-3. So you said a little bit of a road trip. I had to giggle
Yeah,
at that, to
it was a big
Arizona and
one.
California.
Yeah, and they won 17 out of 20 matches total against those two teams. Not a surprise against Cal Baptist, but take 8 out of 10 from Arizona State. That's impressive.
Right.
And they were without Evan Frost.
Right.
Evan
Yeah.
Frost wasn't wrestling at 133, so that's where I believe two of the three losses came from.
Yeah.
So if they were at full strength, who knows what could have been. Um, the one thing that has come out since their road trip, have you seen the story about Iowa State and the road trip out there and what happened away from the mat
I
that I
did
think
not.
overshadows what they
No,
did on it?
I did not see this. Huh?
Okay, so I think it's in between the two duels. If I remember the story correctly, it's posted. Iowa State's wrestling social media has posted a story. Got a neat picture of the wrestlers and I believe the family and the little boy that was involved. But they were in the lobby of the hotel, eating pizza, kind of having dinner. Must have been after the Arizona State duel or in between the two duels, right? So man and his three children come down to the lobby. They said he was going to the little convenience area, the convenience store area to get him a Gatorade and a snack. When he realized this 1-year-old son was not around. So he's got the three kids with him. They're 1 year old missing. One of the other kids said, I think he stayed on the elevator. Well, he was like, I came off. He was walking around, and Kevin Dresser noticed him. Um, you know, um, just kind of frantic and walking by him in the lobby area. And Kevin Dresser offered him some pizza because they've got leftover pizza. He said, hey, you want some leftover pizza? And the man kind of turned to him and was like, no, I'm trying to find my 1 year old, my son. We don't know where he went. So Dresser got the wrestlers all together. They fanned out. They're going up and down elevators. They're checking the pool. They're checking the fitness center to see where he might have roamed. They had wrestlers go out into the parking lot, checking under cars and every nook and cranny. Uh, Julian Broderson had gone down into the parking garage under. So they have a parking garage, sub-level parking garage. He went down there and found the little boy, like huddled in the corner
Oh,
by a gate or something. But he was in the corner of this parking garage, and Julian found him.
what a great story.
Yeah,
Wow.
picked him up, said, "Hey, buddy, we've been looking for you. Got to take you back to your dad." And said the kid just held on to him like super tight, able to reunite the kid with his boy.
No,
That could have turned out so bad.
no
So
kidding.
kudos to Iowa State, Kevin Dresser, the Cyclone wrestlers for what they were able to do. And it's kind of interesting because Julian Broderson apparently is a recent father.
Oh,
So he's recently had a child. Said, you know, I thought about how would I feel, if I was him. Called called his fiance, you know, about the whole deal. And boy, it's just a really, really uplifting story. Especially in this day and age. How many times have you seen that go so wrong? Just and as a parent, I've been there. I've been there. I've
Yeah.
I've had a daughter take off because she wanted to go look at princess dolls. And before I knew it, I had no idea where she went because she was on her own agenda. And I can attest to the panic that kind of goes through your head when you've lost track of one, just you know. And boy, it was. I just thought it was such a neat story the way you know, the Cyclone wrestlers really, jumped to action, and then Julian Broderson, why he decided to go down in the parking garage of all places, because apparently he kind of slipped back on the elevator and went down, you know. But good for them, and glad there's a happy ending to that story.
Well, I mean, besides being split from your brothers or your siblings and your dad, now you're in this dark, because parking garages are usually dark, scary places
Yeah, right.
in any age, right? And so here's this little boy, and I'm glad he kind of stopped moving so they could find him, and he didn't wander out of the building, or
Right.
I don't know if there's water in the area or something that could get him in trouble, or a highway, or
True.
so oh man, you're right. That's and that's the stories you need to hear more of, and we hear all of the bad stories, the disappointing stories, it seems like,
Hmm.
online. So I'm surprised I haven't seen that. So that's a great story. I love it. Way to go,
Yeah,
Julie.
Iowa State's SID, or their information. They sent that out. I'll send it to you. Um, but yeah, it was pretty. And I think Jason Bryant, through the National Wrestling Media Association, also um, sent that story out too, or reposted it for people to see. So yeah, definitely give it a look.
Did that come out today, or was it
Yeah,
earlier?
I saw it this morning. Yeah, I saw it this morning.
Oh,
So
and I haven't been on social media, so I don't know.
yeah,
It might be there. So
yep.
anyway, that's a cool
I'll send
story.
it to you.
So I
Yeah,
guess moving on, Iowa State then battles Utah Valley on Friday and Pittsburgh on Sunday. So
yeah, rematch with Pittsburgh. They wrestled each other last month at the collegiate duels. Looked like Iowa State won pretty handily. So we'll see how that plays out here this weekend.
and am I remembering right? No, I'm thinking of Iowa State. I was thinking Pittsburgh might have wrestled. No, that's Columbia that I'm thinking of. Wrestled Iowa as well. So,
Oh,
but anyway, well, you and I, let's go there, man.
yeah, you and I. Let's mention this first. They get their 800th career victory, dual victory, for the program. The win in Wyoming. Um, you having contributed to some of those 800 dual victories for the Panthers. What's that mean to you, or what do you think that signifies to reach 800 dual wins for a program?
Well, I think that's pretty cool, and I feel real proud to have been able to be a part of that program. And I'm going to brag a little bit, but I was lucky enough to be on the two national championship teams that you and I won in Division Two, and they're the only two Division Two team national championships that an Iowa school has won. Of course, you and I bumped up to Division One shortly after I graduated, but we had a Division One schedule. We wrestled Iowa State, Ohio State, Minnesota. You know, basically whoever's coming into Russell, Iowa, came into Russell us as well. So, uh, and or Iowa State maybe. But what does it mean? I'm so proud. Geez, you know, it's a funny thing though. As much I don't remember the wins like any wrestler, but I'll there's one match that I was winning and gave up a reversal towards the end and gave up so I reversed the decision, and that ended up costing us a meet against Minnesota, and I'll forever never forget that. I don't remember when. So of those 800, I'm still worried about that stupid loss.
uh, and then they faced Nebraska, almost so close getting number 801 against the Cornhuskers. Um, they fall short on criteria. I believe it was 18-17. Um, after they tied 17-17. The thing that kind of stands out, both teams received point deductions during the meet, and that allowed it to go to criteria, which Nebraska won, number 7 Nebraska, that is. But kind of the one that slipped away and, uh, failure to control the mat side kind of reared its ugly head there for UNI.
Well, yeah, that if they don't get called and Nebraska does get called, that's likely to be the difference in criteria. And then UNI gets the win. And UNI wrestled pretty darn well in that duel. I mean, they had 2 huge upsets with Cale Happel beat number 6 Brock Hardy,
Right.
11-8 in sudden victory. And then Ryder Downey, even a bigger upset over Peyton Robb, who's ranked 3rd, was 6-5 win right there. So UNI was set up for the victory, and they were able to bring a I think it was a major decision at heavyweight, but they needed a technical fall or pin there to get the to win the duel. But had a nice win though at heavyweight, but just not enough.
Yeah. Schwab mentioned that Tyrell Gordon went out and did everything he could to try to get those extra bonus points outside of the major, but just ended up with a dominant win anyway, just unable to get a tech fall or pin. A couple other interesting things. Parker Keckeisen was his, same self there with a tech fall at 184. Happel's win against Hardy, he had to battle back and scored. He was down 7-3 at one point in the 3rd period. Got a late reversal and then a takedown to force overtime, then got the deciding takedown. Downey scored the opening takedown, and then beat Rob 6-5 to pull off there. At 197, there was a neutral or non-offensive pin by Silas Red over Wyatt Volker. Did you happen to see the video and did you agree with the call?
I did not see it, so I don't know how I'm missing all this stuff. I'm hooked in with Iowa State and UNI, and I'm missing all this stuff. But I saw that it was a pin, and I know that the 97 pounder from Nebraska is awfully good. But when I saw that he got pinned, I'm like, oh man, what happened there? So now I'm curious.
Yeah, so he was kind of on his back trying to pass the leg, got caught, looked like he was flat for a little while, but I've seen officials, not necessarily not call it, but I've seen it gone uncalled before. Probably one that, yeah, was the right call. I've seen it not called before too. So 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. One thing I also want to add too that, I have a lot of respect for Doug Schwab. I like interacting with them, seeing some of the things that he's emphasized, from mental health and everything else. I've got a ton of respect for him and what he does. Monday during his weekly press conference, he shared this comment about the duel. He goes, "I apologize to our team because there should never be a point where a coach takes away a team point because of how you're acting and what you're doing. You should never be a detriment to your team. You have to have constraint. You have to have a little more control than that. You can't walk on the mat, even though I thought I was walking on the mat with blood time. The referee didn't think so. I was definitely in his ear, the referee's ear quite a bit, but I have to have much better control than that. I asked my team to do that, so I have to be able to do that too." I think this is a great example of leadership and accepting responsibility and saying, you know what, if I'm going to ask them to do something, I've got to be able to do that as well. What kind of a role model am I if I don't do that for these wrestlers? And he's accepting responsibility. Um, you know, I just think it's the kind of the upstanding thing from Doug, and I think that's what endears him to a lot of people in this team.
Right. And you know, as a coach, you need to know what the rules are. You need to know where that line is, both literally and figuratively, that you don't cross over with an official. Go,
Right.
go to that edge, and okay, that's it. Back off, or best yet, don't go to that edge. Just say your comment and let it work its way. And but as to responding that way, a good on him for sure. We saw that earlier this year with Kevin Dresser in the Iowa meet when he
Yep.
apologized for not realizing that the time issue there in the score. And then one last comment I'll mention about you and I. I love the fact that we're talking about for the most part, Iowa wrestlers, Iowa high school wrestlers. We've mentioned Volker, we've mentioned Downing, we mentioned Apple, we mentioned Gordon. I mean,
Yep.
and you just don't see that unfortunately on the other teams. So I'm glad we have a school in Iowa that does that. And then that's not true. I'm not bashing the other ones, but it just seems like a little more at UNI. So
True. Um, so Iowa was idle, but there's still a lot of things going on. Let's just kind of trudge through this really quick. Um, so I don't know if there's actually a determination yet between the program and um, the Ferraris. Um, I don't know if you saw on Tuesday or was it Monday. Um, I had my days kind of mixed up, especially with the snow days here. But I think Monday, AJ Ferrari was on Clash of Combat. I think that's the name of the podcast that he was on. He gave his version of the soldier salute stuff. He also mentioned that he's been here since probably the end of November, pretty much training for over a month, couple extra weeks, give or take a couple weeks, is what he said. Um, his brother Anthony, he said, has been here since the summer training, which was about the time Angelo committed um, to Iowa. Um, said that his official visit that he promoted on his social media accounts had a picture. We saw those with his family and the Iowa background and Iowa singlet, I believe. Um, that the official visit went really well. He hit it off well with Coach Brands and the other coaches. He did not specify what was going to be happening in the future. Um, kind of left that open. Um, he did post something, I believe, on Instagram or his social media, which was a video of him lifting, I believe this week, in what looked to be the weight room of the Dan Gable Wrestling Complex in Carver Hawkeye Arena. So uh, says he has been working out with the regional training center, which the Hawkeye Wrestling Club they host a regional training center um, there. So I not sure exactly what's going to happen during Tom Brands' weekly media availability. No wrestlers were included, despite requests. Um, I personally asked if they were expecting any additions to the second semester roster, and he says we do not. and then finish with at this moment. So, that kind of leaves it wide open. Mike Finn from Win Magazine, who's been covering wrestling for better part of 3 decades, probably. Asked Tom if he could comment on the Soldier Salute happenings or AJ Ferrari's recruiting status. And his response was, the answer to that, Mike. You've been doing this a long time, even though technically he didn't say no, but unclear. Uh, that was my understanding that he couldn't, even though he didn't say no and kind of turned it around on Mike Finn. I believe that's where that's where it stands, that he can't, you know. So that's where it kind of stands. It's still in limbo. Do you think we see AJ Ferrari? I'm just looking now at the University of Iowa student directory. He's not listed. And Anthony Ferrari's not listed. I know there's some other social media personalities that are claiming they're trying to get him to AJ to use an Olympic red shirt and then uh, re-enroll in the fall. We'll see if that happens or not. But do you think we see AJ or Anthony Ferrari even on the Iowa roster?
First of all, I'm not involved in any of those press conferences, but to hear that, I'm disappointed in Coach Brands because the question was asked. If he knew the answer, he wouldn't ask the question, right? And to say the answer to that, to me is a cop out, and that's kind of I'm not anyway. As far as the social media guys suggesting Olympic red shirt, I think that's not a bad idea at all because there's been some bridges burned with AJ Ferrari and the Iowa fan base. And there's some people that are saying we don't want him. Don't tarnish the program type of comments, and whether they're deserving or not, you know what, you're getting it. So if you want to bring it, it's coming. And so I just think that might not be a bad idea to take an Olympic red shirt year and let's see if we can stay on a calm course, not ruffle too many or whatever. But he seems to be an attention getter. With the Instagram of the car driving up and
Yeah.
and that sort of thing. So I mean, he does like his attention. But so that's my comment on it. I guess I don't have any control over what'll happen, so I'll just ride the wave and see what happens. I guess.
Yeah. No doubt a tremendous talent, right? Definitely going to draw a lot of attention and you know, uh, you're going to gain viewers and followers and, ticket sales, all that kind of stuff. So we'll see. We'll see how that certainly, uh, two high caliber wrestlers there with AJ and Anthony. But we'll see if it meshes and if it comes to fruition. I mean, simply, I don't know. Um, and a lot of times, um, and I think Iowa wrestling likes it that way, that uh, you don't know until it happens, that kind of thing. You know
Right.
what I mean? So the one thing we do know is Iowa heads to number 7 Nebraska this weekend. Neither of the Ferraris are in the probable lineup, obviously. And I just checked their online roster as well, and no, they haven't been added or anything like that. So we move on. It's kind of a different weekend for them. They've got Nebraska on Friday, and then they have a Monday night um, duel with Minnesota. Usually you see, you can see a Friday, Saturday, Friday, Sunday. I don't know if I've seen a Friday, Monday before. Obviously it's probably to appease the television, and sounds like Penn State's wrestling before that. Um, but the Nebraska matchup actually is one that I think could cause them a little bit of trouble.
Right. I mean, 25 through 74. So the first 7 weights all feature ranked guys, and including 2 number ones with Woods at 41 and Lovett at 49, and then you've got some other, like, depending on what rankings you're looking at 25, Ayala's third, and Smith from Nebraska's fifth, and or second and one. And so I mean, you've got some pretty nice matchups on paper. Whether or not, plus Nebraska, a couple of their guys got beat by UNI guys, and they're probably not happy about that. So we'll see if they come out swinging a little bit, so to speak. Maybe that's not a good thing to say in this.
Yeah, right.
Actually, 97 features a couple of ranked guys as well, and then 84 and 285, no ranked guys on either team. So it just kind of matches up pretty well. To be, it does favor Iowa in some of those rankings, but we'll wait and see.
Right. 133, that's a rematch of the Soldier Salute finals that Teskey was able to win. But looking up and down this lineup, even though Peyton Robb lost to Ryder Downey here this last weekend, I don't think that's a gimme for Jared Franick. He's wrestled some close matches. You really hate to be in a tight match like that, in enemy territory, because sometimes that is conducive to giving up a late score that kind of bites you in the backside. So we'll see. The interesting question will be if there's any addition. Now, right now, the probable lineups go Ayala, Teskey, Woods, Rachi, Franick, Caliendo, Kennedy at 174, Riggins at 184, then Glazier and Hill. It'll be interesting to see if that alters at all. And one of the biggest things would be the injection of Gabe Arnold. And now that football is over, when will we see Ben Keeter? I don't think we'll see him this weekend. Maybe a little too soon. Purdue, maybe the following Friday.
Possible. You know what?
Be at home. You have an extra, week and a half to, because I'm sure Ben Keeter's been doing some type of wrestling.
Right.
Right. I mean, technically he's focusing on football. I just have a feeling, knowing Ben Keeter, he found a way to sneak in workouts, some way, somehow, for wrestling. So I don't think the transition will be as bad, or will take as long. But Tom Brands was the first one to say, "Hey, Bradley Hill's done a good job for us." We like Bradley Hill. Obviously, there's probably a big difference. Maybe not a big difference, but there is a difference in talent potential. But we'll see how that kind of plays out. The big one would be Gabe Arnold.
Right.
They're at 74, 84, and how they use his last 2 free competitions before having to take the red shirt off.
Right. And I would think they would weigh both of them in and then only use as needed, for those reasons you just mentioned. You want to save Arnold maybe for a couple other meets, and then at heavyweight, I'm not sure he's had enough mat time yet.
Okay.
In the room, that's just it's easy for him to weigh in. He doesn't have to cut it weight, whereas Arnold probably has to losing a little bit of weight to get to 74. So
Sure. All right. And then, Monday, Martin Luther King Jr. Day, they face number 10 Minnesota. Um, some possible rematches there. Patrick McKee and Drake Ayala. Gee, many Christmas. This is like the third time since his soldier salute I've referred to him as his brother.
yeah.
My apologies, Drake. I don't know what my problem is there. Anyway, so possible rematch between McKee and Ayala. Ayala got over the hump and got his first win against McKee in the semis as a soldier salute. And then at 197, I think Glazier's best win so far, his win over Garrett Joles in the semis of the soldier salute. Could get a rematch there as well. And then of note to mention, Michael Blockus back in the Minnesota lineup. He's ranked in those mid-teens at 157 as a grad student athlete.
Right. I'll back up to McKee at 25. I don't think he's having a particularly great season so far, and he's a good wrestler. I mean, as we know, but so he's like a upper teens sort of ranked guy, or maybe I guess one has him in the eighth or whatever. So, but I mean, there's a guy that who knows what kind of guy he's going to come to the mat there. So Drake, you need to be ready there for sure. And I just it's kind of looking at the Nebraska one, and kind of the Minnesota one looks like Iowa should probably win that one handily, I guess, maybe even. But you just never know. There's enough guys on that Minnesota team that can create havoc.
Right. Do you have a teeing up with Briggs subject?
I do.
We can use that as our transition into the high school.
Oh, here it is. So,
discussion.
All right. So this week's topic is girls wrestling versus boys wrestling. All right. So at the high school level, and others actually, we're deep into the second full year of sanctioned, plus the add-on of the Iowa High School Wrestling Coaches and Officials Association, 3 or 4 years that they had there. And I wanted to share a few similarities and differences. So I ref the high-powered Anamosa girls tournament last Saturday, and we'll discuss that in a few minutes. But I found that the quality of skill is just not quite as high as the guys yet, as you would guess. What are we, 2 years into the sanctioned program? However, the quality of skill is extremely high and has made a jump in the last 5 years. I do see a gap, between the experienced and the inexperienced girls. So there seems to be still quite a gap. So some of the girls that have been wrestling their whole lives, and then some that are just joining the sport. And you don't get that as much in boys anymore with, guys that join the sport, as a high school athlete. Sadly, right. I really wish that was not true. But anyway, I think the girls will catch up to the boys in the skill level very soon. They're just pushing hard. I see no differences in the will to win or with the intensity. And I'm not shy when I say that as much as I like to watch the men compete in the Olympics or the world championship level, I like to watch the women more. And here's my thoughts on that. They try moves, they go out and hit moves, and they're out there kind of gunning. And whereas the guys typically will hit a move and then they'll play the push out game or the passivity, trying to get a passivity point or whatever. And so I'm kind of disappointed there. So it's a little more calculated, and there's only a couple of attacks with the guys, it seems like. That's just my opinion. Many girls teams are still trying to fill their lineup and to avoid forfeits. Many have complete, but so we're still kind of trying to get that. They're certainly better at that. But then again, there's boys teams that struggle with that too. So that's going to be an ongoing battle. Girls bring a new level of loud to a gym, not just decibel level, but also an octave level. It's like, whoa, I need earplugs sometimes. Anyway, girls also bring a different level of flexibility to the mat. I had a girl that had her arm behind her head and was down here scratching herself over here. Not really, but could have been. And with her flexibility in her shoulder. And then a couple of matches later, I had another girl that's up here with the same move, half Nelson, that's going, like, so I mean, it's just girls are so flexible. I had one girl with her feet all the way back and laying all the way back with her feet underneath her, and I'm going,
Oh,
I
geez.
call it for potentially dangerous, and she seemed to be all right, but you just never know. And so anyway, um,
I
girls
think
bring a different.
you describing that. I think I popped a ligament in each knee just listening to you describe the position she was in.
Same here, yeah. Okay, and lastly, girls bring a different perspective to the mat. After getting whooped by a girl, the loser stood up and was shaking hands with the winner and said to her opponent, grabbed her with both hands and said, "It was truly an honor to wrestle you."
Really?
Yep. And then a little bit later, one of the other officials, after I told him that story, he says, "That's interesting because I had a girl that got whooped, got pinned, and stood up and said to the girl at once, says, I really like your shoes." so, so there's still a couple of differences between the boys and the girls.
Yep. That
But
reminds me.
that being said, girls keep wrestling like a girl because it's I love it. So I'm so glad that it's a girl sport now.
That reminds me of a story with Cedar Rapids, Washington heavyweight Blake Rowland, who was a state finalist. Uh, Blake was had a big frame and was strong. And I just remember Matt Hatcher. We were talking about just how much potential he had and stuff after one of his wins. He had a really nice win, and I can't remember when or where it was at. And he goes, if I could ever get the kid to want to go out and get mean instead of jumping up and wanting to hug his opponent and shake his hand, he goes, he could jump so many levels if he wasn't so worried about being friends and hugging his opponent after the match. And it just kind of reminded me of kind of what you mentioned, even though I know what Hatch was saying at the time, but it is refreshing to see you don't have to be just you know it, there are different mentalities and stuff that can be involved in the sport, and that's pretty cool. I think that's pretty cool.
Right. I mean, I could tell you lots of stories like that, but through the 30, almost 40 years that I coached, for sure, it's just guys are doing, but the girls, it's a whole different perspective. I love it.
Yep. And what's the tagline? I think it's the National Wrestling Hall of Fame and museums tagline. That wrestling's for everybody, right? That's and I think that fits too to what you're saying um as well. Well, hey, since you mentioned the girls' perspective, you were at Anamosa. Why don't we start there? Um, with our look back at high school action last weekend. Um, the Anamosa tournament won by Cedar Falls, despite Decorah having 5 champs, right?
Right. And Cedar Falls only one champ.
Wow. So a lot more balance or
Right. So,
uh,
so
depth there.
Cedar Falls had a champ at 105 and Chloe Utzler, and then had 3 runner-ups and a third, and they had 13 of 14 that placed. And then, like you said, Decorah had 5 champs, and
Yep.
and so they were. It was, by the way, the team score was 229 Cedar Falls, 220 Decorah. And then third was East Buchanan, 192. Benton Shellsburg was fourth at 180. And then Bettendorf was fifth at 174. Very high power tournament. Prairie finished sixth at 137. Mount Vernon was seventh at 119. Independence eighth at 116. And Linmar was ninth, 104. And Anamosa was 10th at 79, and Jefferson was 11th. There was 19 teams there, so big tournament and really lots of quality there. So good wrestlers. I think there was like I'm gonna not remember it exactly, but Brett Jones told me I think there was like 34 or 36 ranked girls, 4 state champions, one Fargo champion. So it was the quality of wrestling there was through the roof, incredible.
That was awesome. That was awesome. Decora's 5 champions. Chloe Sheffield at 100, Amelia Wadsworth at 140, Anastasia Simon 145, Lauren Lusum at 155, and then top ranked Naomi Simon, who I believe is the Fargo champ. That Brett Jones, who we both know really well, dating back all the way to the early 90s, as he wrestled at Prairie, wrestled against some of your Jayhawks teams, and put a whipping on me in high school and in college at the UNO Open once.
I want a couple of things about Brett. He also wrestled for my brother up at UNI, heavyweight up there for him, and then he had a business that he did in the summer, and a roofing business. He actually roofed my house. That was the roof that flew away. In the derecho. not because of him, obviously, or
just because of the derecho.
Yeah, but I want to make a comment. First of all, Anamosa they broke ground for their new gym. That's going to be a beauty.
Oh,
he's likens it to the Williamsburg gym, which is one of my favorite in the entire state.
Oh, wow, yeah.
They're going to have a 4-lane track around the top of it.
Yep.
That's surface on it, but he does a good job, and that Anamosa coaching staff to promote the girls and then also the boys. Both of their tournaments are very, very high level. So
Anamosa boys have much improved this year. You know, they've got some really good talented kids, Wheeler and some others, I believe. But I'll mention this about Anamosa on the girls' side of things. I really think they were kind of ahead of the curve, and they did a really nice job once kind of the girls wrestling started to gain some steam. I think they hit the hall. I remember them having one of the bigger teams right from the get-go, because I think they did a lot of footwork in the hallways to get girls to come out and really recruited girls to join the program and give it a try. So kudos to Anamosa. I don't think they really get the credit they deserve, that they were one of those teams or programs early on that really made a concerted effort to try to get it to grow and get kids out.
Right. And so this is kind of that second wave for Anamosa, because that group that you're talking about Jonesy had told me that they've graduated, that group that kind of carried them through, and now they're on their second wave, so to finish 10th in this tournament is that's not anything to hang your head about.
Right.
With a program that's kind of in the rebuilding stage, so to speak. Isn't that funny to say a girls program's in the rebuilding stage? That's that early.
Yeah.
Talking about though. So yeah.
A couple other champs. Vince Shellsbury had 3. Edley Weeds at 115, Bree Swenson at 120, and then 135-pounder Chloe Sanders. Kaylin Roster was a runner-up at 145 for the Vikings, and then Prairie's Mackenzie Childers, returning state champion, won at 130 pounds. Mount Vernon had 2 champs, and Kirsten Swart at 110, and then Libby Dix at 190. I believe the state finalist a year ago for the Mustangs.
Right. And a comment about that 130 match between Childers and she wrestled Lexi Peterson from Bettendorf.
Oh, right.
In the finals, and both of those girls reached a milestone 100 wins at that tournament.
Really?
Yep. So that was kind of neat. 200 match winners wrestling each other in the finals.
Yeah, especially on the girls' side. I know it's just the second year of it being sanctioned, and they've been wrestling before that, and there are more competitions. But to think that multiple wrestlers are getting past that 100 win plateau on the girls' side is just another example of how things are growing and improving.
Right. So that was kind of neat. A couple of others that I would mention, Linmar had 6 place winners. Their highest was Ava Hofer and Kate Siri both finished third. Jefferson's had 3 place winners, and their highest was fourth, Josephine Budadera. And then Iowa Valley, of course, had a champ. I'm guessing you can pretty much guess who that might have been at heavyweight.
Brianna Peach.
Brianna Peach, yeah. The Peach family keeps on rolling, don't they?
Oh man. And I don't think they're done. I want to say there's another sister that might be coming through the pipeline there too. But boy, between Millie and Brianna, they're very talented competitors.
Yes, they are.
So I was at the Bobcat Jerry Eckenrod Invitational on Saturday. Uh, you know, still one of my favorites to go to. You always get some outstanding matchups, and strong competition from all classes in there. And it really shows, Don Bosco comes away with a team title at 221 points. Waukee Northwest was second at 212 and a half. And then kind of surprising, kind of not, but kind of, Independence coming away with third place at 202 and a half points. This was a team that, talking to some Independence people before the holiday break, that, the beginning of the season when they dueled Decorah, they're like, man, this is going to be a long year. We might not be 500. But something's clicked. And even before the break, they showed a lot of improvement, even though they dropped a duel to Benton right before the break, who's much improved too. They finished fifth, right behind in between Union Community, who is fourth, and West Delaware, who is sixth. But Indy has just improved consistently throughout the season. They had a champ in Tyler Whelan at 144. Caden Kramer made the finals at 138, as did heavyweight Brady McDonald. So a really good showing from Independence to get third in that field and have 3 in the finals. Union Community was fourth, as I mentioned, 171 and a half, and had a couple champs, and 113 pounder Braden Bonesack and Caleb Olson at 150. But the individual matchup that really stands out, you had Colfax Christensen of Waukee Northwest versus Jace Hedeman of Union Community. Colfax Christensen, a 3-time state finalist, 2-time champ. Hedeman, a 2-time champ in Class 2A, and had been unbeaten until that match. And Colfax Christensen wins 1-0 to hand Hedeman his first loss of his high school career. But man, what a heck of a matchup. Heck of a match, even though it was only 1-0. And Christensen coming away with a win. He is so tough on top. That was my biggest takeaway. He got right out in the second period, scoreless first, right out in the second, and then escaped in the third. But man, he is tough, and two top wrestlers going at it there in the finals at Benton.
Yeah, that was the one that was obviously the marquee match of the day. And with the low scoring match like that, because you've got 2 multiple time state champions, one unbeaten so far in his career. There's a lot on the line, so every little move is going to be is going to be tense and that sort of thing. I'm going to back up to Independence. I don't know if you remember in our very first podcast, I predicted Independence to be that sleeper team that might be able to.
Really?
I don't know if you remember that or not. So
I forgot.
Yeah. Anyway,
But you're right on.
yeah. So far, hopefully, Independence had 13 place winners. So that in this tournament to have 13 place winners, that's a balanced team right there. And I think they're a pretty young team too, if I remember right. And if not, I know they got a real strong youth program that's coming in behind this group. So to
Really,
support them. So they're going to
future
be,
looks bright then for them.
yes, definitely. Yep.
Um, looking at a couple other kind of standouts. Brendan Haying remains unbeaten at 165. He beat Andrew Kimball 7-0 in the finals at 165 to win his home tournament. I think that's always cool to see. Um, where the home team has a champ. Brett Yakovic of West Delaware, one of two champions for the Hawks. He beat Caden Knack 7-1 in the 175 final. And then one to mention, Hayden Schwab. We talked about Doug Schwab and you and I and uh, the college version. Here, Hayden Schwab of Don Bosco wins the 106-pound title. He had a 17-2 technical fall over Union's Coy Maylert, who is a ranked wrestler in Class 2A. So a dominant performance there from Hayden Schwab.
Right. And besides Hayden, who is a freshman, that Don Bosco had two other champs that were freshmen, and maybe equally impressive is Dawson Youngblood at 132. That's a tougher
Didn't
weight.
realize he was a freshman. Wow.
And I'm not knocking anything with Schwab, but he is what he is. But typically those middleweights are a little bit tougher than because you don't have as many seniors at 120, 106. And then Kyler Salas at 215 was a champion. He's also a freshman. He beat Colin
Is he
Wood.
really?
So then they had two other champs, they being Don Bosco, Kyler Knack at 157, and then Landon Fernandez at 190. So Bosco, and the reason I bring that up, they won 221. And then they beat Waukee Northwest, who was second, 212 and a half. Just kind of see that separation there. Pretty good day by Bosco.
Oh, for sure. For sure. And then you mentioned also Cedar Rapids Jefferson with a finalist, Colin Woods, who finished second to Salas at 215. So high point there for the Jayhawks.
Right. Jayhawks had four medalists. They had Woods, and then fourth was Braden Curtis at 113. Fifth was Cade Chisholm at 285, and then Zayed Igram was seventh at 106. So
and Braden Curtis also had the fastest fall.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, 14
in the tournament, I believe 14 seconds. Yeah. So beat out Koufax Christensen, who had two pins in 22 seconds. Wow. Let me clarify that. That's two pins, both of them in 22 seconds before getting to the finals. So two 22-second pins, not that they added up to 22 seconds, but two 22-second pins. So, and then he tops the day off with the win over Hedeman in the final. So big, no wonder he was voted outstanding wrestler of the tournament. So,
right, and I'm not sure I can tie my shoes in 22 seconds.
I know I can't, unless I have Velcro. Maybe if I use Velcro. But I also want to give a heads kind of a tip of the cap to the Benton folks. I mean, they run that tournament so well. And they have a neat configuration where it's the 5 mats, like the die, like the die configuration. And they run it well, and they kept things moving. They actually were ahead of schedule. So hats off to Matt Shannon, who does the track stuff. Sean Fiftner, the AD out there, and all the volunteers. They did a great job on Saturday, considering that's a huge tournament and a lot of talented wrestlers going at it.
Right, Fiftner's a former wrestling guy. And so he's done a nice job. He's been there for quite a while through the last at least 3 coaches, if I'm counting right. I don't know. It's probably been more than that, but so he's done a nice job for sure in that group. I've been lucky to go out there and not only just work it as an official, but obviously coach there for quite a number of years. They do a good job.
Another big tournament of note, the Gary Curtis Invitational at Highland. One of the reasons why this kind of stood out, you had number 3 Alburnett, number 2 Wilton in the field at Highland. And it was Alburnett that came away with a team title. Really impressive day. The Pirates scored 272 and a half points and beat Wilton by 40 and a half.
That's 40 and a half over
Yeah.
Wilton.
Number,
That's impressive.
right?
Wow.
You know, that's really separating yourself from top competition. You know, this was a team that was ranked second, and you're beating them by just about 41 points. They had 6 champs: Atlee DeWitt at 106, Rowdy Neighbor at 120, Tate Kufal at 126, Preston Klosterman and Reese Klosterman 138 and 150 respectively, and then 215-pounder Emmett Fleshman um, with a really big day from him. Given what the wins that he was able to have and who he placed in front of in that bracket, but the Pirates all business down there at Highland.
Right. And remember, we kind of talked about Don Bosco and how they did, and with their 5 champs, was it? And then now Alburnett's kind of why I was bringing that up, so we can do a little comparison here. I know it's different tournaments, but Alburnett, who is not on the coaches' dual rankings, and they're due to come out here in the next round in another 4 or 5 days. And but they were ranked second in the last one. Wilton was ranked number 1 in the dual rankings, and Bosco must have been 3, I guess. And then in some of the, I guess, tournament rankings, Bosco's number 1. Alburnett and Wilton are kind of 2 and 3 in there. And so I think Alburnett's made a big statement here. And if you look at this, Alburnett beat Wilton 4 out of the 5 finals matches. So
really,
yeah. So
head to head.
Yeah, head to head. They Alburnett was, so that's kind of a pretty good statement right there. You know, that Alburnett's got to be looking forward to tournament time right now.
Just want to mention Emmett Fleshman, where he had a nice win over Quentin Roca from West Branch, who's a solid 215-pounder there in Class 1A. And then, so he pins his way to the finals. Had a pin over Roca in 435, had 2 sub-minute pins to open the day. And then he beat Evan Frankie of Muscatine. You know, don't get a lot of publicity down there from Muscatine, but they have some good individuals. Evan Frankie's one of those good individuals that they produce, and it was Fleshman that knocked off the top seeded Frankie 4-3 in the finals. So really good day there from him.
So I don't remember Fleshman wrestling last year.
He was at Woodbury Central.
Oh,
he was a 3 years he was a 3-year starter. I'm sorry, West Lyon, not Woodbury Central. He was a 3-year starter at West Lyon, was a state qualifier last year. I can't remember if he placed last year or not. I had that in the previous story. But they moved to Alburnett, and he's been a big addition for the Pirates there at 215. Let me look here.
Right. Alburnett was kind of lacking in bodies, even in the upper weights last year. And so for to have a good, able body like that moving in, that's a huge addition to the team.
Yeah, so he was a state qualifier last year at 195 pounds. Um, like I said, 3-year starter, one-time state qualifier, had 103 victories in his first 3 seasons um, at West Lyon, and has come to Alburnett and really been a big contributor
Right.
for them. Really solidifies the lineup, like you said, kind of that upper weight level.
So Wilton had
Um,
2 champs in Mason Shirk at 113 and Jordan Dusenberry at 144. They had 6 runners up, so they couldn't be happy about that, I'm sure.
right, right. And that's I think the thing that stands out, sometimes you can kind of paint a certain picture about, well, there's a difference between tournament wrestling, dual wrestling. I think the thing that really stands out is what you mentioned about the head to head in the finals.
Right.
Um, I think that's something that um, might kind of throw that aside as far as the well, dual versus tournament, saying, well, hey, we faced you head to head and came out on top in most of those matches. That might be uh, kind of might be indicative how the duel would go.
Right. And your coaches can manipulate their lineup to get better matchups and kind of try to favor their squad. But you just never know about matchups. But Albernett's proven pretty well. They did pretty good at the was it the battle of, is that where I'm remembering, a dual tournament uh,
Mm-hmm.
earlier this year, and so they're proving both sides. And Wilton is a no slouch team. They're a good team. So
Right.
we'll see how that goes. Come dual time.
Just want to mention that West Branch's Cooper Gates won a title at 165, and then one other individual finish of note: Washington's Aaron Boone. Um, he improved to 25-1. He's been a talented kid from the time he stepped into the Demons wrestling lineup as a freshman. But the junior beat Brody Brisker of Wilton 6-2 in the finals. So handed Brisker his first loss of the season. So Boone, nice victory there for him at 132.
Right, that's one of those other losses that Wilton had in the final. So, but quality wrestler, they're losing to a quality wrestler there for sure.
Um, let's switch to Central Iowa here. The Mendenhall in Ames. That was held this last weekend. We had some Gazette area teams over there, including Iowa City High, Cedar Rapids Prairie, to name a couple. And City High, with a decent showing over there. They got a couple champs in Kale Seaton and Kale Voinovich. Have you have you made any ground on coming up with some type of Kale tagline
I have not.
or
I have to get back.
motto
I got to get
for
back to
City
that with all 3 Kales there. You got Eaton Voinovich, and then Kurtz was second again, and he not again, but he was second. He lost again to Coy Davidson from Fort Dodge in a 5-2 match. Um, but Seaton pinned his way through the tournament and just looked pretty darn good. Prairie had a champ in Dylan Munson, and they had 3/3, so not a bad showing with Prairie there. I've been to the Mendenhall back when Jack Mendenhall was still the coach, and he was such a nice man, just a quality guy, and really ran a wonderful tournament. Had a great coach's meal. It was a meal. It wasn't just to go into the coach's room or whatever. It was sit down
Oh,
and
really?
pies and everything. He made sure that. Just a wonderful guy.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Kennedy was also there. Their second, they had 8 place winners, and their highest was second Colin Falco's at 165.
Oh, wow. So that's something for the Cougars to build on there. Um, any other anything else stand out to you from last week before we move on to kind of the upcoming tournaments that stand out here?
Well, I'll just mention this, that in the Lindmar duels, that
Oh,
Lindmar won that over Mount Vernon. They beat Mount Vernon 47-28 in that final match. Clear Creek Amana was third, 39-30 with Xavier. So Xavier's got a good team this year. They're competing for sure, because we know CCA is a good team.
right.
Pleasant Valley was fifth. They beat Western Dubuque 40-28, and then Lamar beat Marion 36-34 in the final round. So
Marion, one of those teams that'll have their home tournament this weekend, as will Cedar Rapids Jefferson. And kind of a special day on Saturday with the Jayhawk, the 50th uh Jefferson Jayhawk tournament. They're going to have some special things going on Saturday to commemorate that um anniversary.
right, the first tournament was in 1975, and I know that because I graduated in 1974. So, and good. Jefferson had a good showing. I think they took second to, and Bill McNeil, former coach at Jefferson, wanted to put a quality tournament together. And that first tournament had only 6 teams, as they were trying to get back then there was 8-team tournaments. You didn't have the big size tournaments.
Oh,
And
gotcha.
so he's trying to get in the quality guys. I think he had quality some of his coaching friends, and then also quality teams. I believe did Dowling win that first one? I think maybe. Anyway, so he had some through the years. The guys that came in, the coaches that came in with their teams were, and I don't know if they were in that first tournament, but eventually they were in it. Mick Pickford from Fort Madison, Bob Dara from Dowling, Looters, Bob Looters from Clinton, Bettendorf, Frank Freeman from Bettendorf, Coach McNeil, Clyde Bean from City High, I believe. And, so just some good old coaches that, most of them are Hall of Fame coaches that brought in their teams. So
You mentioned some of the best in Iowa history there.
right now, one side note is Bob Siddons was invited, but was not able to attend. I'm not sure why.
Oh,
Bob
really?
and his teams were dodging the big boys, or if they had something else going on. Never accused coaches of dodging, but when we were in high school, 1974, we wanted to wrestle them, so in our minds we thought they were dodging us when they wouldn't wrestle us. And then we beat them
So,
instead.
so one of the other things, they're bringing back 3 of the original tournament champs from that inaugural event from Jefferson. Jim Ballvans, Jed Brown, and Tom Sadler, who I believe teammates of yours on the championship teams there at Jeff. But they will be recognized during the tournament as well. And when you think back of some of the talent that's come through, obviously on the Jefferson side, ton of talent, including Mark Ironside. I think recently Ben Keeter, uh, some other state talent. Heck, I think you had. Did you have the state finalists one year with Cody Caldwell from Waverly Shell Rock and Gustavo Martinez from Marshalltown
Right.
wrestling one year, and then they were in the same district,
Okay.
and then wrestled in the state finals.
Right. And then the bigger one, even than that, at the time his name was Millage, and now is wrestling at
Oh,
Minnesota. Blockus wrestling undefeated at the time, 3-time champ. Am I remembering? Anyway, wrestling against um, 4-time champ. Anyway, huge matchup. The match was incredibly good. I'll go back to the very first season. Jefferson had a state champion that was not a champion at the Jayhawk.
oh, really?
In Jim Comrie. So
Okay.
so there you go. I mean, you don't have to go very far deep into that tournament history to the very first one.
Right.
So,
Right. And remember Teskey Thompson, the second.
Teskey and Millage the year before, wasn't it?
Okay.
Back-to-back years. That's what I was trying to think of. Teskey. Jeez.
Okay.
What? Yeah. And
And that was, oh, I was trying to remember. Did Teskey win at Council Bluffs and then Thompson at Jefferson, I think maybe, or vice versa. But yeah, that was those are just some. Those are just
right.
some. You imagine 50 years of that. Because I know for you personally, you took a lot of pride in kind of not necessarily just kind of reshuffling teams through, but bringing teams in from all over the state that would add, Humboldt was there, Underwood. Um, you really made, yeah, Fort Dodge, who's part of the field again this year, but you really made a concerted effort to bring in top teams from all over, kind of continuing what Bill McNeil established there in the mid-70s.
Right. So then we were able to build it to a 16 team or however many we could get. And I didn't want to just fill the tournament with a team that was going to hang around for a while. That was like maybe an MVC team that we saw a lot of
Sure.
a lot of the times. And then actually Prairie used to be in it too. And are they back in it? Let's see it. They're not in it this year, but they've been in it in the past. And then City High has been. And anyway, so yeah, so I tried to be selective, just because I wanted this very eclectic group, all over the state, central, south, north, a couple from Waterloo even, so, so Marshalltown was in it, Boone was in it, all through the years, just to get a good group. Alburnett, of course, they're in it again, still in it.
Right.
So it wasn't always just 3A, though I think Alburnett's the only team in it this year that's not 3A, and see if they win it.
They could be they certainly can be a contender. Here's the rundown of the teams that are there. You mentioned Alburnett, Bondurant Farrar coming over for this one. That's a solid team. I believe they're top 10 team in 3A. You've got Boone, Cedar Falls, obviously Jefferson, Clinton still in it. They've been in it for a while. Dallas Center Grimes. We saw them at the Eckenrod as well. They've got some good individuals, solid team. Davenport Central, Davenport North, Forest City coming all the way over. I believe that's a 2A school. Fort Dodge, as you mentioned, Fort Madison, Iowa City High that we talked about, and what they were able to do over at Ames, and they've got some high level talent. Muscatine, Pleasant Valley, West Des Moines Valley. That's a good squad coming over. Waterloo East, and then Waukee Northwest. We just finished second to Don Bosco at the Eckenrod as well. So, yeah, another stacked field there at Jefferson, and very fitting for the 50th Jayhawk. And I think it's great that you guys honor. I think Jefferson, as much as anybody that I've seen, really does a great job of honoring and recognizing its past competitors and coaches, and really celebrates the history of the program. Maybe better than anybody else.
Well, and credit that to head coach Rob Martin, because I don't have anything to do with it. I'm pretty far removed from Jefferson, right. So that's his credit. But Rob was my assistant for 22 years, and who was instrumental in helping us do a lot of those type things. So, that's pretty neat. I know they're going to do later on in the month as well, military salute, and they're going to rededicate the trophy case to a couple of fallen Jefferson wrestlers from the Vietnam War that the trophy case was originally built with their memorial money, I think, or for them anyway. And so that's a pretty neat deal there as well. So kudos to Coach Martin and his group for doing that.
Well, for sure. And you're going to be there too as well, correct?
Yeah, by accident, I guess. Yeah, default or whatever. I am roughing the tournament. I've roughed it for 4 or 5 years now. I don't know, something like that. So,
just want to mention the Metro has one other tournament too, the Lloyd Schaefer Marion Invitational, named after the late former coach there at Marion. Atlantic Benton community. We mentioned how Benton has really improved this season. They've got one of their better teams of all, for a long time. Cedar Rapids, Kennedy, Grinnell, Jessup, Keokuk, Louisa Muscatine, Macokota, Marion, of course, Monticello, Northland. They welcome in Oakley High School out of Kansas, I believe, close to Kansas City, that Overland Park, Blue Valley area. Then you've got Williamsburg, Wilton, who we talked about, who got second to Alburnett last weekend, and then Cedar Rapids Xavier, who's well improved as well. So a nice field out there at Marion on Saturday. The other one that really stands out, the Ed Haydenfeld at Solon. That's being held this weekend as well. That's always a good tournament. Some smaller schools out there. Some of the WAMAC programs involved, including Center Point Urbana, Clear Creek Amana. East Buchanan is there. Of course, they've got a couple really good individuals in Cody Fox at heavyweight, and then Tanner Torn as well. Dyke Hartford, Iowa City Liberty, Iowa Valley, Lisbon, North Cedar, North Scott, Pella, Solon, of course, and then Vinton Shellisburg, West Branch, who's had a strong season in 1A, and then West Liberty as well, who had a finalist at Benton in Caden Wheatley. So that's the name a lot of West Liberty fans will recall, Jeff Wheatley. So strong field at the Haydenfeld as well.
Right, and Solon they put an addition onto their gym, and boy, they've got a great setup. I think they have 3 mats in the main gym, 2 in that auxiliary gym, and 1 up in the wrestling room. So,
wow! So they go 6 mats.
So it's they run a good tournament as well.
Any other parting shots or anything to mention here before we sign off for this week?
No, I'm good, but I always have to hope that I don't screw up our tagline at the end. So, someday I'm bound to do that.
So Thursday we'll be at Xavier Prairie. That should be a fun one. MFL Marmac also has their tournament this weekend. Osage Duals going on, so keep an eye out for that. And of course, we'll recap a lot of that next week as well. For Dick Briggs, want to give a shout out to our weekly producer, Nathan Ford, who always helps us out. So you guys, thanks for watching us and letting us be able to do this and talk college and high school wrestling together for you guys. The biggest reason why is we do it for wrestling. So Coach Briggs, why don't you close us out, and we'll see everybody next week.
Let's keep wrestling on the move.